What's up, YouTube? Mr. MSC here, and today we're going to talk about the Necromancer and some changes I believe could be really interesting to make it a little bit more viable, bring a couple more builds maybe into the end game, shake the meta up a little bit, and just kind of make some of those underused skills a little bit better. Now again, as I've said many times before, I'm not a dev. I don't have crazy power with them, and with all of that, I'm just throwing out my own ideas. You guys throw out your ideas. We're all throwing our ideas out, hoping fun stuff happens. These are my opinions. Some of them are good. Some of them are probably bad. That's okay. But I'm also a human with feelings. So, you know, let's be nice. Let's be kind people. That's all that I'm asking. That's all I'm saying. With that being said, let's jump in. So, the first thing that I would jump in and change, and let's just get into it. Let's just talk about it right now. Raise Skeletal Mage. Now, I feel like there's a few ideas that can be had right here, right? The first one is, if we just made them archers, it fits really well into the whole piece of how everything goes with the summon necro, right? You get that physical damage. You're already casting amp damage or decrepify or life tap or whatever it is. So they're getting the added damage there. The physical damage hits harder. All of that. It works really, really well. I think that could be an interesting way to change them up, boost them, and it would be pretty fun, right? And that just kind of synergizes really well with how the Necro currently kind of operates as a summoner. Because right now, the mages, they're just kind of off on the side, doing their own thing, shooting little elemental damage, but you're not using like lower resist and that stuff, because why would you? Because you're trying to boost all of your army, and most of it's going to be that physical damage, so it just doesn't do a lot of stuff, right? It just doesn't help a ton. So that's idea number one. For some of you, you might say that's a little bit too wild and too much of a change, and I think that's fair. So I think the second idea is make it so there's actually two different kinds of armies that you can go for as a summoner. One is that physical army where you're running with the skeletons and the masteries, and you got your clay golem and some revives and all of that. And the second is running an elemental army. And this would be where you do have all of these mages, and it has a synergy from lower resistance curse. And so now you're putting into lower res, you're running lower res to hit all of the guys, and then you have this elemental army with the skeletal mages, with the fire golem, and you're playing a second type. So it's like you're either running the physical army with the skelly and kind of the revive, or you're running the elemental army with all the elemental mages and the fire golem. And maybe there's even a mix in there where you run that with Poison Nova, because again, Poison is only 60 points and you're maxed out on it. So you can maybe run some max Poison Nova and mix that with these mages and have this cool elemental army that could just be really interesting and a fun, different way to kind of play the game, and something that would be, like I say, totally different, totally unique, but could bring an added element, a new style and gameplay and summoner to the game. I think that could be really fun right there. And of course, with that, you would have to buff mages a lot again so that they actually have good damage, because still right now, even with lower res, even with infinity, even with all of that, it still just kind of sucks. You know, they still just aren't very good. And that's just kind of unfortunate, right? That's just kind of how it is, and that's just, you know, it just sucks. Even with all the boosts that they gave it, they're still not worth anything. I made a video just a couple days ago that is, you know, like, I think it's just called Skeleton Mages Still Suck or something. How can we fix it? And it's just me in the Chaos Sanctuary casting low res, sitting there watching them shoot. I don't know if I had Infinity with it or not, but it doesn't really matter, because it just doesn't help. They just still take way too long to kill a single monster. And additionally, they'll get locked on monsters that have their immunity, and so they're just sitting there attacking the same thing that's immune to them when the mob right next to them isn't. And it's like, you know. So I think AI improvements could also help there. But just more damage, faster casting speed, that sort of stuff I think could be really useful. Now, a third idea I think that goes along with it is, what if the more points you invested in skeletal mages, it improved the type of spell that they could cast? And this could even go back to, what if you can only have like 4 mages, right? You can have a cold, a fire, a light, and a poison one. And every time that you level up, it gives another boost to one of those. And again, this might be getting too far into the, this should be in a mod area, but I think it'd be pretty fun. So like a level 20 poison one has like Poison Nova or something as the skill that he releases. Something like that, right? Or if you're going, let's just go through the fire tree, right? He could shoot out fire bolts, fire balls, fire walls, and then meteor, right? Those could be like the 4 stages of that. You could have the cold shoot out ice bolt, ice blast, glacial spike, and frozen orb. And again, it's just one mage that goes along in each way. But that'd be kind of a fun way. You'd still have all of your skeleton army in front of you, but you would have one mage of each type, and they would each kind of shoot their own element like that. That could upgrade as you go along the way. To me, that sounds like a really fun idea. Again, I don't know if this is too far in the, that should just be in a mod territory, don't bring it into this game, and that's probably okay. I still like the original idea I have of just make them either skeleton archers or make them an elemental army, because I think an elemental army would be really fun to run, where you have the fire golem and all those and all the low res and all of that stuff. So just some ideas right there that I have. Now, moving on, let me get my note really fast. Next thing I want to talk about is the fire golem. The damage just needs to probably be boosted up again. And I think this goes along with kind of what I was talking about with the holy fire changes from the paladin. I really like the idea of holy fire and all of these holy auras to have that damage be high in a close area and then be fading out as they get further away, especially with something like a golem. If I invest a lot of points in this golem, I want wherever he goes to really have a high concentration from that holy fire damage to pulse around him, so then he can get into those areas and have a big fire pulse and have really good damage from that. But right now, the damage is just like so bad that it doesn't really do a lot, right? It kind of has like some aggro on it, but it just doesn't have enough damage to warrant investing in it, especially warrant more than like a point in it. And so you're just not really getting a lot out of it. So to me, increasing that fire golem damage, I think would really be fun. And really, especially, like I said, if they had that holy fire change, like they were kind of aiming at 200% to 100%, but even more maybe central on that focus of the damage right around. And then you can even really get less to the damage way out on the sides. I think it could just be really nice. And that could be kind of a fun way to improve your fire golem right there. And if you have that elemental army, now you're just kind of naturally casting low resist and all that stuff, which increases him even more and makes him even more viable. Continuing over to the poison tree, I think the poison dagger and poison explosion, you can see 16.4 seconds for the damage to land at level 37. I just feel like, again, like I talked about with the other poison skills, we see how improved Plague Javelin was by having that poison damage lowered down to over 3 seconds. And I think the same thing could happen here for Poison Dagger and Poison Explosion. Hits, but just give it like that 3 second or whatever for all of the poison damage to go out. And I think it would actually make them kind of be fun and a little bit usable in some capacity. I think Poison Explosion would have some use at 3 seconds. And Poison Dagger, still probably not a lot, but that's kind of because daggers and all that really aren't great. But I think there could be meme builds that could actually be a lot more fun with it, where he runs around and, you can do a lot of damage with Poison Dagger. So if you can run around and do a little bit extra right there, I think it could be super fun just to have as an option. So again, just the idea of poison damage overall being so long. Anytime you're waiting around 15, 16 seconds for the damage to run out and finally deal all of the damage, the build is kind of dead already, right? 16 seconds is an eternity in most any game. And so you should be at the next screen dealing with the next monsters by that point. And so that's why I don't really like having, this just like super long poison damage that does exist in the game. So those would be those changes for the skills. I think Bone, PvP, people have talked a little bit about the added there. I still think there's, maybe some issues with the magic and just kind of this a little bit, but it's hard to say how to fix it. I don't know if I have great fixes for Teeth, Bone Spear, Bone Spirit. Again, maybe there's like some sort of small AoE explosion when Bone Spirit hits or something that could help with PVM. Just to make it more of a skill that you would use to like shoot into a big pack of something like that. But it's really hard to say, it's really just hard to say. So I don't have great suggestions on all of this. I've thought like Teeth shotgunning and then having a damage change could be interesting. But I'm not sure I feel strong enough about any of these right now that I think those would be like big meta shifts, because again, those are already kind of the skills used anyways. I'm trying to bring in more of the stuff that doesn't get used at all in my thoughts with this stuff. So that is it for skills. The last thing I'll say is please improve vampire frames. There's nothing worse than putting on the full Trang set and casting 8 frames slower than your counterpart. Like, just make it, make the frames the same as the Necromancer, please. I think that would be, whenever you get additional gear, get cooler things like that and put it on. There's nothing worse than suddenly becoming a worse character. So I do hope that they improve the vampire frames right there, just to be the same as the human, or make them even better maybe, but at least be the same as the human form, in my opinion. So that's all I have to say about the Necromancer. I hope that you enjoyed some of these thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below as well. Please keep it respectful, of course. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later. Peace, YouTube.